Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm April Messier, President of the National D-Day Memorial. We're delighted to have you join us today. And we also have our very special guest, Florent Planat, directly from Normandy today. Hi, Flo.
Hello, good afternoon.
We're so happy to see you. I know you've been busy doing some battlefield tours today, so that's great.
Yes, but no, that was great day, and I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Well, we're so happy to have you. I know you're quite a few hours ahead of us, so you're gearing into the evening there, and we're delighted that you're joining us. And you've become kind of a regular, so we're just so happy to have you. And we're talking about today something that's very near and dear to our heart, and that has to do with a very special sculpture that we have here at the National D-Day Memorial. Many of you who've been to the memorial have seen it, Le Monument aux Morts, which is a sculpture that is an exact replica of a sculpture in Normandy in Trevières. And Flo today is going to share a lot of information about that for us. And to me, I think it's one of the more haunting sculptures that we have here. I think it really tells an amazing story. And of course, Flo is going to share some of that, but placed in Trevières at the end of World War I to commemorate those men who died in that small village. And obviously a very powerful reminder that peace is very fragile and that war is quite destructive. When you think about that, less than 2 decades later, the face of that sculpture was damaged during the Battle of Normandy and the Battle at Trevières. So we're going to be hearing more about that today. And I'm so excited to have Flo join us with that. And those of you who have heard Flo before, I will say we are always in awe of Flo because he traveled to the United States and spent 4 years interviewing over 900 veterans and collecting their stories, which are so powerful, and that's so important. I mean, Flo, we are so grateful that you spent all of those years doing that because we're losing our veterans at such a rapid rate now. There are not very many left with us. And so really congratulations on that. And I know you use a lot of those stories in your discussions when you take people out on tours, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. No, yes, absolutely. Because as you said, a lot of the veterans that fought in Normandy are deceased now, and I was very fortunate to meet a few of them, and it's always like very impactful for my groups to hear like firsthand accounts, make a better connection to the site when you have the stories of people who were there and those cases survived it and had the time to share a little bit about their experience, because a lot of veterans never talked about it, but now they're in their 90s, and I think that some of them feel that very soon they're going to be the last, or they're already the last of their units, and it's time for them to represent their friends, that they fought with, and those who as well fell in combat. And I was very lucky to meet a few veterans that actually fought around here in Normandy, including some that were, around Bedford. That's
exactly right. Yes, you did. And you all have, I know you have your website, World War II Veterans Memories, correct? And you have that discusses a little bit about the tours that you do, but also some videos. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Because if you click, World War II Veterans Memories.org, and actually it's not a two like you see under my name. It's World War II with the two. Like, I don't know how you say it.
The numeral two. That's right.
Yeah, and you can find some, of course, of tours we offer here in Normandy, but you can see a large number of accounts from our YouTube channel where we uploaded like some videos, and we have Instagram, Facebook, where we're sharing some stories. It's purely like just sharing the stories so we can reach people and they can learn a little bit about what happened here in World War II. Because, it's been only 77 years, but, for a lot of people, it feel that it never happened, or it's been like 200 or 300 years ago. And sometimes it's hard to connect with the younger generation. And I do feel that sometimes with the accounts of World War II veterans, and it just make it more real. Like they were real people that, sacrificed so much, went through so much to give us back, liberty, freedom that we have lost in 1940. So
absolutely.
Hope it can happen.
Yeah, and your videos are all the documentaries and the videos that you do really do bring it to life, these veteran stories. Because when you look at these young men, you realize how young they were. And particularly for our young people, I think that resonates. So it's really wonderful what you're doing.
Oh, thank you very much. And talking about how young they were, I'm 30 years old now, and I feel like I'm still young, but I would be an old guy, in a company. And actually, Captain Feller was leading a company of the 116. I think that he was 29 or 30 years old, and he was an old guy, in the company.
That's right. They called him old man, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I would be an old man, but I feel still young, But
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, we are excited to learn more about the Battle of Trevières today. So we're going to let you whisk us away on that in a moment. I will say very quickly to all of our viewers who are watching live right now, we did have a little bit of technical difficulties earlier. So if it's a little bit laggy when you're watching the video, please stick with us for a little while. We are going to have Flo back at the very end. Our presentation, I think, is about 20 minutes or so. Flo will come back so we can ask questions. We would love for you all to use the chat feature, ask us lots of questions. And then we'll post the video on YouTube and Facebook later that's perhaps not laggy. And it may not be at all. So you never know when we're doing this long distance how that will work out. So just in case it is, please bear with us and please watch this wonderful presentation. Flo, we will bring you back right toward the end so that you can answer your questions.
Oh, of course. Thank you very much, and enjoy the video.
Wonderful. All right, everyone. Enjoy. All right, everyone. I'm so sorry. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties again. This happens. So we're working on that. Bear with us for just a moment. And we'll see if we can get that going for you. We apologize. Sometimes this happens, especially when we're trying to do something a little long distance. So we will get this worked out in just a moment. And while we're waiting on that, I will say our Trevière sculpture here over the next week is beautiful because we've planted 4,415 poppies outside of and around the sculpture in commemoration of the end of World War II, and also one for each of our D-Day fatalities. So it's really quite beautiful. We're going to test this again in just a moment. So let's see if we can get it to work. All right, everyone. We apologize. Obviously, we're having some technical difficulties here, which we really hate because this is such a wonderful presentation. The flow is so fantastic. So we're going to continue to work on that. Just bear with us for a moment. It always happens when things work fine when you're not live, and then when you go live, it's not working. So we will get this up and running. Just as a reminder, we will have this on our Facebook and YouTube page later, where you can just go directly to the video. We were hoping to be able to talk to Flo at the end of this, but if for some reason we can't get that working, we'll just go ahead and post this so you can watch the entire video. All right, let's see if we can.
Hi everybody, my name is Florent Planat. I'm a battlefield tour guide and historian here in Normandy, France, and I'm actually standing today at the entrance.
Okay, I think we may be having trouble, Flo, with our it may be coming through our system here. So unfortunately, our video is not working today. So here's what we may end up doing, Flo. Oh, we have sound now? We may have sound now. Hold on, everybody. We're going to try one more time. This will be the chart.
of the town of Trevières. We're located about 6 miles south of Omaha Beach, and unfortunately, the story of the town and the fight that took place to liberate the citizens and the city of Trevières is less known than many other sectors linked to the D-Day invasion and the Battle of Normandy. 3 days after D-Day, on June the 9th, 1944, we have elements of the 2nd Infantry Division 38 Regiment who are actually entering the town of Trevières. That's going to be their baptism of fire, and the long fight going to take place on June the 9th and June the 10th of 1944. So today, in this video that we're producing with the National D-Day Memorial, we would like to highlight the stories of the men who fought to liberate the town of Trevières, but we would like as well to tell you a little bit more about the statue of the World War I monument that is actually known as the Lady of Treville. And there is a replica at the National D-Day Memorial. So we want, of course, to tell you more about the statue, the liberation of Trevières, and all the story linked to the liberation of this part of France. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you will enjoy it. So we are right now next to the Or River, and actually in the northern part of Trevières, there's a bridge to cross the Or River to go into the town. And the 2nd Infantry Division, in their daily report and after action reports, they clearly mentioned that the bridge was destroyed. So we need to find a way to cross the Or River, and there's still, like, you know, machine gun fire, artillery fire coming from the German side, and we have a lot of trouble to actually enter the town without being under fire. So we're going to give the task to the 1340th Engineer Battalion to actually build a Bailey Bridge, and that bridge was built during the night of June the 9th to the 10th of June 1944, and that Bailey Bridge, as you can see on the picture, was built right there across the Or River. Before that task could be, like, actually taken care of, we needed to clear the road. According to several reports, there were some road obstacles. And actually, 3 men gonna volunteer to climb up on the tank, and this tank gonna actually come toward the obstacles that are blocking the element of the 2nd Infantry Division. Those men were hiding behind the turret of the tank. They're going to jump on the road. The tank going to actually move back to a safer area. And those 3 engineers that were full, you know, with bag of TNT, going to blow up the obstacles that were on the road. And that first task was very important. And those 3 men going to be awarded the Silver Star for their actions. And you can see the names right now of this gentleman on the screen, and I was fortunate to actually find a picture of one of these heroes that took so many risks 77 years ago to make sure that the 2nd Infantry Division could actually cross the Or River to liberate the town. So the 2nd Battalion of the 38th Infantry Regiment is progressing from the north. We have the 3rd Battalion of the 38th progressing on the western part of the town. And on the eastern part of the town, we have the 9th Infantry Regiment, which is as well part of the 2nd Infantry Division. So actually, the German troops that were fighting on June the 9th here, June the 9th, 1944, they realized that they were surrendered. So a lot of Germans actually were captured, and some of them explained to the American troops after they were interrogated that they knew that actually the time was counted. So a lot of them retreated to avoid to be captured. And on June the 10th, 1944, when the 2nd Infantry Division entered the city, most of the Germans were already gone. So you can see on the picture that I'm showing you right now, element of the 2nd Division progressing toward the town, and you can see a lot of destruction. And actually, a large part of the town was destroyed by naval bombardment before the 2nd Division entered the town. And unfortunately, a large part of those buildings that were so damaged were flattened later on by bulldozers, by the American engineers, and those buildings were rebuilt later after the war. So I'm showing you right now some pictures of the town, as you can see, and you can see how much the city was destroyed, and you can see those American troops progressing toward the city, and it's very sad to see so much destruction, but that was the price of freedom. You know, the price that was paid to liberate the town from the German occupation. So right now we're in the northwest part of Trevières, and we're actually walking in the footsteps of the 3rd Battalion of the 38th Infantry Regiment that was in charge of conturning, going west of Trevières, while the 2nd Battalion was actually trying to enter the town from the north. And actually, we have 2 men from the 3rd Battalion who are going to be awarded the Distinguished Service Cross on June 9th, 1944. And it's the 2nd highest award in the United States Armed Forces. And for both of them, June 9th, 1944 was their baptism of fire. Captain Omeri C. Weathers was the captain, the company commander of K Company. And actually, when his company was pinned down in the open fields behind us, he actually decided to run through his entire company to show example, to show that we needed to continue to progress toward Trevières, and doing so, showing the example to the rest of the company that was actually a little bit frozen, pinned down on the ground. He was actually killed in action by artillery fire on June the 9th, 1944. And for his bravery, during this attack, he was awarded, as we said, the Distinguished Service Cross, but unfortunately, it would be posthumously. We have a second individual by the name of Marcelo Feliz of the 3rd Battalion, 38th Regiment, and actually the same. You know, they're pinned down by machine gun fire. There are a lot of casualties, and Marcelo Feliz going to actually be hit in the weapon. His weapon's going to be actually taken off his hands because of enemy fire, and he's going to continue to progress. He's going to grab a rifle on a casualty on the ground. He's going to progress toward the machine gun, and actually he's going to knock out the German German machine gun that were pinning down a part of his platoon. And he was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for his action. And actually, he did survive the Battle of Trevières, but he was wounded a few days later on June the 16th, 1944, just a few miles from here. So he survived this battle, and he survived as well the war, and he returned home, you know, when the war ended, and he passed away many decades after the war. So those 2 men actually, you know, are not very known because the Battle of Trevières is, again, unknown, but those events that we're describing right now, you know, all this bravery from young troops from the 2nd Infantry Division, it happened right there on those open fields. And it didn't really change since the war. You see that there are a lot of hedgerows, open fields, and it's quite a beautiful and peaceful place. It's sometimes very hard to imagine what happened here on those lands 77 years ago, like when they actually tried to take Trevières. There was, you know, machine gun fire, artillery fire. There was naval bombardment flying over our head to actually destroy a large part of the town. The citizens of the town itself were trying to escape the fights. They were caught in the middle of the German and American fire. American troops would seize their baptism of fire here, 2nd Infantry Division, on those same fields that are so peaceful and quiet today. So I hope this video can help a little bit to better understand what happened here in June 1944. And the 3rd Battalion, 38th Regiment, when they arrived here, they could see the church, but the steeple was pretty damaged. I can see it. I can imagine it with like the missing part on the top, and they were trying to progress toward the town. Here we are in the middle of the city of Trevières. Just behind me, you can see the church that has been beautifully restored since the war. We see the Place du Marché, which is actually where we have a farmer market every week for centuries. So we used to have a lot of life here before World War II. And unfortunately, a lot of those buildings that you see around has been completely destroyed by naval bombardment before the 2nd Infantry Division could actually enter the town. So I found through my research a lot of information, and I know for sure that the USS Arkansas the USS Texas and the USS Ellison actually fired in the town of Trevières on June the 7th and June the 8th, 1944. And where I'm standing right now, it's actually the coordinate of a naval fire from the USS Arkansas on June the 7th of 1944. So as you can imagine, when the USS Arkansas opened fire in this location, most of the buildings here were completely destroyed. And as you can see in the map right now that I'm showing you on the screen, every red buildings was so damaged that actually they could not be restored, which explains why actually the town of Trevières has changed so much from how it was before the war to the way it is now. Just behind me, you see a street leading to the church, and we used to have a huge amount of buildings right there on the right side of the road, and all of them were demolished. Here we used to have the mairie, la Halle au Grand. We used to have many more buildings that were completely destroyed. And as you can see from those pictures from before World War II, they were magnificent buildings. A very famous picture was taken right there in front of the Hotel Saint-Aignan, where actually you can see elements of the 2nd Infantry Division, and you can see a German soldier that has been killed and he's actually laying on the ground. So, talking about the naval bombardment, you can imagine that a lot of buildings were destroyed, but not only. We lost quite a few civilians in the city of Trevières. We lost almost 20 citizens killed by the naval bombardment, and we have the same number that have been wounded because of the fight and the bombardment. But a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow, of course, but you can see in the pictures that actually the citizens of Trevières are welcoming their liberators. There are a lot of pain, as I said, but there are as well a lot of joy. It's been 4 years since the French here are living under the German occupation. The Germans arrived here in June 1940, and we're going to have to wait 4 long years before finally the freedom going to be returned to the French of Trevières. So, of course, as I said, a lot of pain, but a lot of joy. And all those videos and pictures that I'm showing you right now were taken right there in that street leading to the city center, and as well on the Place du Marché with French civilians and members of the 2nd Infantry Division celebrating victory. So here we are in front of the Church of Trevières. The church itself was badly damaged during the naval bombardment before the 2nd Infantry Division entered the town. But not only the church was damaged, but the statue just behind me. And actually that statue was actually placed right here before World War II. And this statue was honoring the members of the city of Trevières that were killed during the First War. And as you can see, it's a lady, it's a woman. It's as well to remember and honor the mother that lost their sons, and of course the widows that lost their husbands. So this statue, built right after World War I, was actually hit by naval bombardment. And actually you can see in the picture right now that I'm showing you on the screen that the statue fell on the ground and a large part of the face was taken off by a direct hit from the naval bombardment. And actually, which is interesting, is that after World War II, the city of Trevières tried to restore the city because the citizens, didn't have a home, didn't have a roof. But when most of the town was repaired, they decided actually now to take care of the monument of Trevières, the World War I monument. And actually, in the 50s, I found out in the archives of the city, they didn't want to touch the statue itself. They wanted to repair, the base of the monument. They actually decided to create new plaques with this time the name of the citizen of Trevières that died during the First War, but as well World War II and during the War of Indochine. But it's clearly written that the statue itself with the missing face could not be restored. They didn't want to restore it because I think it's as well a reminder of the fragility of the peace, because we're just one generation after World War I, we're 26 years after, and again a war hit the city of Trevières and the citizens of Normandy. And which is very great is that actually the city of Bedford, the National D-Day Memorial, decided to make a copy of that statue, and it's a great connection, and as well it's a great link between the United States and France that were allies for already centuries. So you can see right now that we're entering the church itself of Trevières, and there are a lot of impacts from the war, pieces of shrapnel from naval bombardment, artillery, or even like probably bullets flying all around before the town was liberated. There really impacts everywhere on that church. And we're very lucky that actually it was restored after the war, because a large part of the church was gone. It was destroyed. The roof on that side was destroyed, as you can see on the video. We can clearly see through the roof. The steeple of the church was destroyed as well. And yesterday I was with a 97-year-old woman by the name of Yvette Durand. And she told me that when she used to take that road right there, and she was looking at the church, they call the church Le Coquetier, because it's like you could put an egg on the top of the church, because all the top was missing. So you can just put an egg on the top. That's why we call it coquetier in French. But anyway, there are a lot of story, of course, behind that church, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about it inside, if you're okay with that. So we are right now inside the Church of Trevières, which was beautifully restored after World War II. And actually, as we said, a large part of the roof was gone, steeple was destroyed. A lot of part of that church was badly damaged because of naval bombardment. And actually, in September 1944, the 95th Infantry Division landed in Omaha Beach, 6 miles from here, and they actually spent their first night here in France around Trevières. And once they actually went through the towns, they just saw destruction, buildings flattened, a lot of citizens without a roof. It was, I think, very disturbing for those young men that had never been in combat to see so much destruction in one of the first French towns that they would actually go through. Which explained why actually a lot of them gave money, their own money, that they actually they were given some money, to use here in France, that they could spend, if they would see a farmer, to buy a chicken, or to buy any type of things to the French people. But anyway, they decided to actually give their money to restore a part of the town and the Church of Trevières. And which is incredible is that actually there are 2 stained glasses right here behind me that has been dedicated to the United States Army, especially the 377 Infantry Regiment of the 95 Infantry Division, that actually gave their money to restore the town. So if you want, we're going to have a look. So here we are looking at the stained glasses of the Church of Trevières. And if you look behind me, there are 2 stained glasses that are dedicated to the 95th Infantry Division. They are the men who actually contributed to the restoration of the city and the Church of Trevières by giving a little bit of money when they arrived here in September 1944. As you can see, there are some words at the bottom to the memory of the officers and soldiers of the 377 Infantry Regiment, 95th Infantry Division, men of America, friend of France. So there are a lot of symbols as well around the stained glasses, because they're the insignia of the 95th Infantry Division all around. They're the crests, Infantry, Medical Corps, Chaplain Corps, and there as well the ranks of the troops and officers that were here in 1944, that they were the same ranks that they were actually wearing on their arms, on their uniforms. So it's actually a very less known fact. It's a less known story, but if you come to Trevières, make sure to stop here to visit the church, the statue, of course, of Trevières, and the stained glasses. So here we are in front of the city hall of Trevières, and actually you can see a plaque commemorating the 2nd Infantry Indian Head Division with the member of the 38th Regiment that took part in the liberation of the town of Trevières, and the 9th Infantry Regiment that was actually on the eastern part of the town, liberating other small town and hamlet. And this is very moving to see that the city of Trevières is still commemorating, is very thankful to their liberators, to the members of the 2nd Infantry Division that took part in the liberation of the town. Because I just want to give you a little bit a reminder that the 38th Regiment lost about 100 men to take the city of Trevières, and the 9th Infantry Regiment in this area as well, on the eastern part of Trevières, lost 100 men. So we have about 200 casualties around the city of Trevières on June the 9th and June the 10th, 1944. So it's great that the city still remember and still commemorate those young men that liberated, and for some of them, paid the ultimate price in June 1944. So thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoy learning a little bit more about the city of Trevières. And for those who actually know the statue, the Lady of Treville in the National D-Day Memorial, we hope that you enjoyed learning more about the background, of course, of the statue, but as well of the city where the statue is located here in Normandy. So thank you again for watching, and we hope to create more videos in the future for you guys. Bye.
Okay, we're back. Flo, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Took me right back there. I remember visiting Trevières and the chapel, and it's just stained glass windows. Every part of it is just wonderful. But can you tell me, just out of curiosity, before we take other questions, and I encourage everybody that's tuning in to please ask questions. Just use your chat feature there, and we'll ask Flo some other questions. But first of all, how did you come across all those amazing photos that you showed us throughout the video? Because the one with the soldier and the little boy, for example, is just very touching. But you have some wonderful footage. How did you get all of that?
Yeah, so I was lucky for different things. First of all, we found a lot of pictures from the National Archives. They're a team I'm working with, Footsteps researchers, and they actually digitize a lot of pictures from Trevières. Some of them are as well online. And there are a lot of pictures of the destructions that you saw. They're actually coming from a collection of civilians it's coming from different civilians from Trevières. So that's why there are even some probably pictures of the statue and some videos of the church that you never seen because they're from local people in Trevières. So wow. I told them about the project of the video, and they were very happy to actually to share them with us. So it's great. And some of the videos actually, because you probably saw some video that are completely unknown, is through the National Archives as well in the United States. And I found those videos through my research randomly. It's just like village in France, and I would watch the entire clip and I would recognize some of the church, some of the area. And I know that this video, for instance, that was just pure luck. I was looking for videos of the Normandy bocage, the Normandy hedgerows, and I just found that video, and I just looked, and I recognized, first of all, the Church of Formigny, which is between Trevières and Omaha Beach. And I was like, let's see where this video is getting us. And I saw the Church of Trevières, the town of Trevières. And honestly, it's been like, I'm 30 years old. It's been 15 years that I'm really doing research. And that's the first time I found it, like in 2020. So I think a lot of people watching this video probably didn't see that, before. So I'm happy to share it with you guys today.
It was wonderful because it really does show really the aftermath of the battle, what happened with the naval bombardment and the ground attack there. And do you have any sense of, when we look at the Trevières sculpture, we talk about it probably being damaged by the naval bombardment in some way, whether it was USS Texas or otherwise, but do we really know? Could it have come from the ground attack, since that was pretty fierce at the time? What's your opinion?
About the destruction? So you can see that clearly in Normandy, the destruction they're gonna like honestly cause so much damage come from mainly naval bombardment, aerial bombardment, and in some case artillery fire. But like the street fights most of the time would not cause so much damage. And you see clearly, like for example, in Normandy, some of the medium-sized city or big cities were completely destroyed, and afterwards they were completely flattened, because they were too damaged to be restored. When you go in small towns, if they don't suffer naval bombardment, aerial bombardment, but for example mortar fire or artillery fire, you will see that the building can be restored. Most of the time the roof going to be gone, some of the walls may be going to be damaged or destroyed, but not completely like destroyed like Trevières. And it's clearly I would say 95% from the naval bombardment, and it matched with the coordinates. I just gave you one example in the video of one coordinate from a U.S. ship that actually the coordinates right in the middle of the town. But there were many other coordinates that I found, and they actually match with the buildings that were not repaired, not rebuilt. So definitely naval bombardment caused most of the damage.
And you can really tell that through all the damage. I guess I should clarify too with the sculpture itself. Do you think that came from the naval bombardment as well?
I'm sorry.
I should clarify, but no, I'm glad you mentioned that though, because I do think it was a pretty intense bombardment as well. But what about the sculpture? Do you have any sense?
I would say definitely artillery fire or naval bombardment, because actually most of the fights between ground forces going to be on the north and the west part of Trevières. And when the infantry, second infantry division managed to actually when they managed to enter the town, most of the fight was over for the Germans. A lot of them would surrendered. In the reports, you hear a few snipers stories, a few individuals that stayed to actually slow down the progress of the infantry. But in that part of the town, there was less fights per se. So it would not be like any type of weapons. If you think about like a bazooka or tank, I'm 95% sure that it's naval bombardment. That was, it's violent,
That makes sense. Now, we did have
and it fell on the ground.
Yes, and since we're talking about what happened to Trevières with the naval bombardment and everything, what happened? One of the questions we have is what happened after the June 9th and 10th period, once the town was taken by the Allies. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened immediately after?
So, yeah, I can try. It's a period of time where there's some confusion because the citizens of Trevières, they don't have any home left. The economy at the time was really impacted because we were, living under German occupation with the German administration, even if it was French, but everything going to change. So we need to rebuild houses, but we need as well to rebuild the economy. I went through a lot of, archives material in the archives of Trevières, and you can see as well that some of the farms in Trevières on the round, some of them lost 25% of their cows, horses, and I know that there are a few farmers that lost over 50% of their cows and horses, and so we need time to actually, rebuild everything. So for the citizens of Trevières as well, there's some of them that will find a place to live outside of Trevières, their family, or if they know people that can host them for a few weeks, few months, and even years, because it's going to take years to rebuild Trevières, like years. So yeah, and I know talking about the citizen of Trevières, I know that some barracks were brought, and I don't remember. I don't want to tell any stories, but I know some barracks were brought to Trevières, and I haven't checked that yet, but I know that some of them were. It's possible that they were living in those barracks. But you know what? I'm not quite 100 sure because I'm hearing more stories. I'm having more information, and I always need to double check to make sure. But I know some barracks were brought to Trevières, and it's possible that actually some citizens were living in those barracks because in the town of my grandparents, Tourouvre in Normandy, it was destroyed by SS units. 50 houses were burned. And I know that after World War II, during the Marshall Plan, some barracks were brought to the village of Tourouvre, and the citizens were living there until they could rebuild or restore their house. So it's possible that happened in Trevières, but I need to double check those facts.
That's great. Well, so you've interviewed a lot of veterans. Have you interviewed someone who was directly involved in the Battle of Trevières, someone with the 2nd Division or otherwise?
So I've met some men from the 2nd Infantry Division. Unfortunately, I never met anyone from the 2nd or 3rd Battalion of the 38 Regiment. The veteran that I know and is still alive, he was in the 1st Battalion. And the 1st Battalion was in reserve for the Battle of Trevières. And they would see combat a few days after outside of Cerisy-la-Forêt. And unfortunately, no, you know what? I just added on Facebook a couple weeks ago in 97, World War II veteran was a part of the 2nd Infantry Division. I know he was artillery. I haven't time to check with him if he was in Trevières, but it's possible that's the first veteran. Maybe that could be in Trevières, but he was in the artillery. So, and you know, it's very hard because we're 77 years after, and there were 2 battalions of the 30th Regiment. So let's say, you know, a little bit over 1,000 men that were involved in that battle, like 2nd and 3rd Battalion, and a lot of them did not survive the war. And because that's their baptism of fire, June 9, 1944, but afterwards they have many more weeks, months of fights until they're going to reach Czechoslovakia. And I would not be surprised that, you know, only a few actually survived the war. So I'm still hoping that I'll meet one day.
That's right. That's right. And so Dick Atley, who's a volunteer here at the memorial, has some great questions. One of his is, how did the Nazi occupation affect Trevières and the effects on the residents? You touched on a little bit post, you know, afterwards, after the battle and the liberation. But what about during the time of the occupation?
That's a good and tricky question. Because actually, like I've met a lot of people from area, like from my town, from Bayeux, or from like the coast of Normandy. But from Trevières, I know that of course there was a headquarter of regiment 916 you know, infantry regiment that was in Trevières. So I'm pretty, you know, there were a lot of troops, of course. So if you're asking me how the people of Trevières felt, they probably didn't feel very happy about the fact that there were so many German troops living in the town, especially because we're only 6 miles from Omaha Beach. So there are a lot of activities, especially the first few weeks, months before D-Day, because the German troops, you know, are reinforcing their defense on the coast of Normandy. So there are more and more German like occupation, like in this area of Normandy. And you know, there are restrictions, of course. You don't have all your rights, the right to travel, the right to gather with a large group of people. And of course, some of the Germans were, you know, placed in the house and the farms in that part of Normandy, which means that the French had to live with the Germans, not only under the German occupation, but with the Germans. And it's going to be, in some case, very difficult. So for the city of Trevières itself, in the city center, I don't know if like Germans were placed in houses, to be quite honest. I know in the area, like some of them were staying in farms and stuff like that. I met so many French civilians that I remember having, you know, Germans in their place, you know, and they had to share food, and, you know, they had to give them beds and stuff. So that was not very pleasant. So that's why, you know, even if the German, like, there are a lot of people that say, oh, the Germans were all bad, etc., etc. And I know that, for instance, as we say, they were trying to gain the heart of the French. They were not trying to have the population against them, but more or less wisdom, which means that you don't hear a lot of brutality or a lot of bad stories, of the Germans toward the French civilians. I'm talking if you're just a regular French civilian. I'm not talking if you're Jewish, or if you're a part of a French underground network. I'm talking if you're just a French who avoid, to be involved with collaboration or with like the underground. If you're just trying to, like farm your lands, if you're just trying to have your little shop and you're not asking anything, I would say that you won't have any problem. But still, you're living under German occupation. You're losing a part of your rights, and it's not pleasant. And so the French, as you can see in the videos, they lost everything. They lost their home. Some of them lost family members, but you can still see that they're welcoming their liberators. And it's very surprising to see so much destruction, but such a welcoming from the citizen of Trevières.
Yes, definitely.
That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was excellent. No, absolutely. And, you touched on this a little bit, Flo, but can you tell us a little bit about the resistance that the Allies met once they were in Trevières? Was there, I know the 352nd German division were there, right? So we had, so talk a little bit about the resistance that they faced, and were the Allies, did they underestimate the resistance that they would have once they entered Trevières?
That's a tricky subject. I know that there's someone that was actually born in Trevières and later on joined the French underground, and recently a suitcase was found with a lot of maps of the German fortification and stuff. So he provided a lot of information to the Allies, but okay, I'm gonna maybe shock you, but we talked a lot about the French underground. The typical French guy with his Sten machine gun and his beret on the side, and like, let's go, win the war. But a large part of the French population at that time is what we call attentistes, which means that they're waiting. They don't want to be involved in anything. They're just waiting. They're trying to survive. And I feel that, honestly, most of the people in the area around Trevières and here in Normandy in general were just hoping for the best. But of course, there are some people that were part of the French underground, but it's very risky. You're talking about a place where we have entire German division, were actually occupying farms, occupying little hamlets, little towns. You're taking a lot of risk being in the French underground. And I'm not trying to tell you that we didn't have any French fighters in Normandy. That's not what I'm trying to do. But to actually know who did what is a little bit tricky, because after World War II, and especially when the liberation was coming, a lot of French, and I'm talking bad about my people, but a lot of French actually, from 1 minute to another, boom, I'm part of the French underground. So they're gonna take like maybe a hunting rifle that they were hidden, in the attic, and they're gonna get in the street knowing that the Americans are here and they're part of the French underground. So it's very difficult for me to give you large numbers or a real number of people part of the French underground in the area, and I apologize for that. But in the area of Trevières, I know about one man, I'm sorry, I forget his name, that was born in Trevières, but he actually moved later on from Trevières, and he was a very active duty, if I can say it, French underground, and he was trying to provide information to the Allied, to you guys that were in England. And he was, the French underground, I would say, was more effective doing so. So we have a lot of case here in Normandy of men trying, or women trying to provide information about the German troops that were located here in Normandy, providing, the type of German units that were here, if there was any artillery. Some of them trying to provide as well, like the type of fortification that were on the coastline, trying to give them as much information as they could before you could come. Like if you're here a part of a group of French underground and you try to ambush like a German convoy here in Trevières or around before D-Day, I mean, everybody knows each other, and the only thing that's going to happen, civilians going to get killed.
No.
You know, I'm sorry, it's very long answers again.
No,
But,
you know, truly in that time too, it's hard to know who to trust. And, you know, you realize that you're so close to the end of the war, liberation is coming, and how much do you risk at that point? It had to be a difficult decision for many.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very difficult question. And, you know, we always say, oh, I would have been part of the French on the ground. I would have fight for the, you know, to fight the Germans. But at the same time, when you have a farm, you have children and a wife, ain't that your main mission, to actually keep them alive, to keep your family alive? And I'm not saying you're going to do everything possible until, like, you know, collaborating and do some weirdo stuff, you know, weird things, but you're going to try to survive. You're going to try to avoid problems.
That's right.
And I would say that that's what most of the people did at that time in the area. But, you know, after the war, we tried, you know, especially, I mean, I'm not trying to go into politics and stuff, but Charles de Gaulle was trying to give the image of France that was fighting, resist, you know, la France qui résiste, la France résistante. But, of course, we had some brave guys that did incredible things, but what a risk to take. And some of them going to be beat up to death. Some of them going to be sent, you know, to different camp. And I know, for example, we have a lady from Caen, and I forget what's her name. She just won an Oscar. Like, I'm sorry, the name, Colette. Thank you, Jenny, my wife, to remind me. Colette. So Colette is a French woman, and her brother was part of the, you know, French underground, and he was actually captured. He was taken by the Germans, and he was sent to Germany in a death camp, and this is where he died. So I'm not trying to minimize, you know, what the French did, but it's very difficult for me to give you a number of people that did fight, you know, in the Trevières area. And I'm sorry, it's a very long answer, but
no, as Dick says on here, we love the long answers. That's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, because, you know, today you hear a lot of people telling you, you know, like, my grandpa was in the French underground. My grandpa was in the French underground. You could think that every French were, you know, part of French underground, but sometimes, you know, we don't know, but there were some for sure. Yeah.
Well, we don't know, and you know, it's one thing to say you're part of the French underground, but there may have been little things that you did that weren't. There were small acts of resistance. They weren't necessarily being part of the underground, but there were small acts that no one ever knew about or noticed. And I think that's really what's key too. That we
exactly. Providing information and was a key. Afterward, you know, before the day, of course, you have people who are going to cut communication line. We hear about stories, you know, about railroad being blown away, you know, things like that. Yeah. But I do think that, you know, for example, the one that did the most probably didn't talk the most about it, you know. Right.
So we have another question here, and this is very important, Flo. Are people in Trevières aware that we have we here at the D-Day Memorial have a copy of the statue? And,
oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, you would come to Trevières, you're going to see an old lady, you know, in her 70s, 80s, and she won't talk much about, you know, she don't speak very good English, but she knows about Bedford, she knows about the National D-Day Memorial, and she knows and very proud of the fact that they're copy in America, you know, at the National D-Day Memorial. And some of them, you know, it's funny because they're like, oh, it's a strange thing to do. I've been strange, but they're so surprised. They were very surprised and so happy. And they're just like, what a nice thing to do, you know, but they're surprised because they're living in that small town in Trevières, you know, that nobody really hear about. And, you know, there are not as many tourists as Omaha Beach, you know. The 2nd Infantry Division, the Battle of Trevières is not very known. And so for them, all the citizens to know that the National D-Day Memorial took an interest in the town and the statue, it's a great honor. So it's funny. It's really funny, but not funny, but really cool, if I can say.
We love that. And
Yeah.
it was about a little over a decade ago that the Guy Wildenstein actually donated that sculpture to the memorial. And this is what we have on the sculpture that here at the memorial that he said, a gift to the National D-Day Memorial, the city of Bedford and the nation, from Guy Wildenstein and his family, with eternal gratitude to the United States of America for restoring France's freedom, for granting asylum to our parents, and for halting the extermination of a people, in memory of the American soldiers who gave their lives on the beaches of Normandy in June 1944. And I love that, because I think that really sums it up beautifully. And it's so nice to have this direct connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I need that document for my tour.
Okay. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. And I just want to say one little thing, because I apologize. I made a mistake in my presentation. I called Distinguished Service Cross Marcelo Feliz. I don't know why I call him Marcelo Feliz. And I just want to, if you're okay, can I tell you why I made a mistake? It's because actually Marcelo Feliz was not known. Is an unknown Distinguished Service Cross. He was not an officer. And, I was just curious about him, and I wanted to find his picture. I'm always frustrated when I don't see the picture of a hero like Marcelo Feliz. And so I tried to find the family, and actually I spent a lot of time, trying to find the family, but finally I found his son, and his name is Fidel Solis. That's why Fidel, I put Feliz, Fidel, because it's starting with the same. So I was confused, but anyway, I found Fidel a couple years ago, and I called him. I'm like, I'm sorry, my name is Florent. I'm from Normandy, and your actually father was awarded this Distinguished Service Cross in a town named Trevières. So he was just very surprised by my call, and he was like, "What do you want? Like, why do you care? Why my father?" And I'm like, because he's awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. I mean, it's the second award under, the Medal of Honor. He's a hero of Trevières. And so I was like, do you have a picture of him? He was like, I do have a picture of him, but it's in the family, and it was not like published. It's not outside of the family. So I need to talk with my 8 or 9 brothers and sisters. He had a big family, and he was happy. He started to tell me a little bit about his brothers and sisters. And finally, about a month later, I just received a picture, because I sent a lot of pictures before. I sent a picture of where he was, the city of Trevières, and he was not really talking, but afterward, I think he probably showed a picture that I sent him, like of the city of Trevières, the church. I told him, like, your father was right there in those fields. And finally, a month after I received the picture, I was so happy. And so I gave the picture to the city, to the town of Trevières, and now it's in the city hall. We have the 2 portraits of the 2 Distinguished Service Cross for the city of Trevières. And, I was proud of it, because I'm like, we're like, bringing back stories alive that were normally gone.
Well, Flo, nobody does that better than you. You have really dedicated your life to it, and we are so grateful for your commitment and dedication to collecting these stories, because without that, then our kids, the next generation, we've had the luxury of meeting these veterans throughout our lifetime.
Yeah.
The next generation is not going to have that same luxury. So to be able to collect their stories and collect their photos and tell these important histories, it's really vital. So we thank you so much. And we really thank you for joining us again today. I'm sorry we had a few technical difficulties in the beginning, but it worked out.
Yeah, there's always problem, but I mean, in life, but that makes it exciting, right? But I just want to say one quick thing before. It's just I would like to thank Jenny, because Jenny, you don't see her right now on the screen with me, but she's been always with me during this work, and she was the one actually filming, and I think she did a pretty good job, right?
We love Jenny. So
yeah.
And for those who don't know, Jenny used to be at the National D-Day Memorial as our director of site operations. So we miss you, Jenny, but we love the work that you're doing. And
yeah.
And you got- and your
I stole her
website-
from you. I'm sorry, guys, but she's
I know.
she's
I
too
was going
great.
to
We
keep
need,
that out, Flo, but
yeah, yeah.
we're really pleased with everything you all are doing. And tell us your website again.
Oh, our website is World War II veteransmemories.org, but with the two, like the, how do you say it? Chiffre?
Yeah, the number.
The number two, not, yeah, thanks.
Absolutely.
Basic word that I forget.
We encourage everybody to check it out. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
website. And,
Yep.
And again, we thank you, Flo. We're going to have you back again, and we look forward to that. There's plenty to talk
Hope so.
about. So
Hope so.
thank you again. And we just, it looks like Jenny just added the website on there. So it's there for anybody who wants to go there and check it out. And
Oh, yeah, great.
we will have
Yeah.
Flo back. So thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're
Talk
welcome.
soon.
There's still a lot of things to research about Trevières. And I'm just going to tell you one little thing. It's just because I know Bailey Bridge was built, and I show you the picture that come from the collection of someone, but I need to find exactly if they built another bridge where the bridge was, because I see pictures of trucks coming to the, how do you say, former bridge. So I'm confused, because I know there was a Bailey Bridge somewhere, but something else happened, and there's always more to research. So
There's always more. And you're the perfect
exactly.
I see some people making comments. One person who's planning on visiting Normandy in 2024, and I will tell you, you all are great battlefield historians. You do such a great job. So I really I hope that whoever's visiting Normandy will check out your website and talk to you, because you all do such an amazing job with
Thanks.
that. So,
We try. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to tell the story about Trevières, and we'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon. Thank you, guys, and thank you all for joining us today. Join us again.